Test. 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 Stop.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Christ Church First Service. We are glad you are here with us this morning. Hopefully, you're glad to be with us this morning. If not, we hope to change that for you. We hope to make you glad by the time you leave today. We are starting this week our new sermon series. And if you look on your study guide, hopefully you got one of those as you came in. If you look on that study guide, you'll see sermon series number 1. This year we're doing something unique. We are not having a theme for the whole year. What we are doing is we're going to have several themes. Actually, there will probably be 4 of those themes that we will have for the year. This is the first of those themes. The title of this theme is Pass It On. Pass It On, which I think is very appropriate as we have been talking about love for a solid year, that we would indeed take that message that we have been given on love and pass it on to others. We need to remember that His story, history is always His story. It's God's story. God is the hero. But His story is also our story. How He has worked in our lives, how He indeed has come and redeemed us and saved us and given us life in Jesus. So His story becomes our story, and then we pass it on to others. We pass that story on to others. We are in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1 through 7. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1 through 7. If you would please stand for the reading of God's Word, and then stand for the prayer that will immediately follow. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1. Timothy, my dear son, be strong through the grace that God gives you in Christ Jesus. Say that with me. Be strong through the grace that God gives you in Christ Jesus. Be strong in the grace. I really want that to sink in. Be strong in the grace that God has given you. You will never find the strength that you need within yourself. The sooner you stop trusting in yourself and start trusting in the Lord and His grace, the better off you'll be. You have heard me teach, says Paul, things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses. Now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on to others. See how that works? You've received it. Now you need to find others who are trustworthy, and you need to pass it on to them so that they can pass it on to others as well. Now notice verse 3. He says, endure suffering along with me as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. Well, I didn't know there would be suffering in this thing. There is, isn't there? As a Christian, there is suffering. We want to be like the good soldier. We want to suffer for Jesus. Verse 4, soldiers don't get tied up in the affairs of civilian life, for then they cannot please the officer who enlisted them. And athletes cannot win the prize unless they follow the rules. And, verse 6, hardworking farmers. See the comparison he gives us? See what he gives us as an illustration, a metaphor for us in the Christian life? He gives us a soldier, he gives us an athlete, and he gives us a farmer. He says the hardworking farmers. And hard-working farmers, verse 6, should be the first to enjoy the fruit of their labor. Then he tells us in verse 7, think about what I'm saying. The Lord will help you understand all these things. Let's pray. God, today we do pray for your help to understand these things. God, today we want to be inspired by you. Lord, we want to be able to take the message that you've given us that has changed our lives and then impart that message to others. God, we want to pass it on. We know that we are not to be isolationists. We're not to be those, God, who have received a great gift and then just sit on that gift. But You've given us your gift of love so that we might give that love to others, that we would regift it. And God, I'm praying today by the power of your Holy Spirit that you would illuminate your word, that you would do just as you have said here, that you will help us understand these things. Truly, God, we want to pass it on. God, I thank you for those who are here today. I thank you, God, they could have chosen to be anywhere today, and they've chosen to be in your house. They've chosen to study your holy word. They've chosen, God, to build and to edify each other. They've chosen today to worship and praise you. And God, based on those decisions, I'm asking for your blessing. Not because we deserve anything, but because of your goodness and because of your grace. God, today we stand in your grace. We receive your grace. We are sustained by your grace from beginning to end. Help us, Lord, to be strong in your grace. We love you, Lord. We thank you for all you've done for us. And most of all, God, we thank you for Jesus. And it's in his high and holy name we pray, Christ our Lord. Amen.
which one of them was regarded as the greatest. Whenever we feel victorious or redeemed, that's whether we feel victorious or redeemed or gloriously blessed for being in the heavenly places with Christ or not is irrelevant. How you feel and what is going on in your life does not affect the fact, spiritual truth of Jesus' victory or its efficacy for your sin. Proclamation and glorification of Jesus' victory is not based on what you do. We are never good enough to take communion in our own right. We can only take it because of who Jesus is and what he's done for us. He invites us to his table, welcomes us to take his feast, makes us acceptable guests at his feast. Time we partake, forth the wonder of his love, showing forth the awesomeness of his power. Amazing grace that can reach beyond sin. Thank you, Lord. So when you do it. When we have the opportunity.
Well, good morning again. You can go ahead and have a seat. Thank you, Ty. Appreciate the praise worship this morning. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to reiterate now, we are starting a new sermon series today. That sermon series is entitled Pass It On. The idea for this sermon series really came, I believe I was watching a sermon. I was watching it on YouTube, and I think it was the pastor of the Elevation Church, if I'm not mistaken. But one of the things that he talked about was there's a congregation there now that does not really know the story of how they came to be. He said, for the folks who are sitting out there right now, he said, you're used to every Sunday morning coming and watching and seeing someone give their life to the Lord and be baptized into Christ. You're used to the idea of a multicultural kind of environment, blacks and whites and Hispanics and everyone worshiping together, and you're used to this kind of environment. He said, but it hasn't always been this way. And when we go back through our history and we go to our humble beginnings, a lot of you do not know the story of the church. And he said that's really dangerous. It's really dangerous. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. But as I thought about that, I thought about the same thing being true with regard to Christ Church. Christ Church was formed in 1997. 1997. In 2017, it made our 20th year. So we are more than 20 years old now. And there are folks here today who have no idea what it was like from the beginning. Just a quick question. How many of you who are here today worshiped with us on the corner of Washington and Main? Look around you. Take a percentage of that. And so you get the idea from that there are many here who do not know the history of Christ's church. More importantly, we want you to know the work God has done in and through Christ's church. That's what's really important to us, because God has done a great work within the body of Christ that meets here. And we want to make sure that we pass that story on. We want to pass on the story of Christ's church in Bowling Green. Simply put, sometimes people come here and have no idea what our name means. Why do you call yourselves Christ Church? Is that a name? Well, yeah, in a sense it's a name, but more than that, it just really shows possession. Whose we are. We are Christ's church. Remember, Jesus said, I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And so, really, when you hear Christ Church, it's just showing possession. That's all it is. We're His church. Simply put, we are a non-denominational church. That means everything is done locally. We're locally owned and operated, if you will. And there's unique blessings to that. But it's good for you to know these kind of things about the history of our church. Some of you do not realize the history of this church and the fact that we began as a non-instrumental Church of Christ and an instrumental Church of Christ. We merged the two of them together. And if you know anything about the history of the churches of Christ, you would know that that is a difficult thing to do. That just doesn't happen. And the unique thing is, not only has it happened, but it's lasted for more than 20 years. That is special, and it's special because this is what God has done in this church. It's important for you to understand the roots of this congregation. Our roots are in the Restoration movement, and we will talk more about that as we go. But there are great statements that came out of that Restoration movement that people don't even realize when we say them that that's where it came from. But that's where the Churches of Christ, Christian church, was founded, was in that Restoration movement. Now, I don't mean it like it never existed prior to that, because we're going to know today that as we talk a little bit further, that the church originated in Acts chapter 2 on the day of Pentecost. And so we mark ourselves all the way back to that event. But the churches of Christ, as we know them, were a part of not the Reformation movement with Martin Luther, but the Restoration movement. And we will talk more about that history, but statements that came from that. Speak where the Bible speaks and be silent where the Bible is silent. We're not the only Christians, we're Christians only. These are statements that came out of that movement. It was a powerful movement, and it was a movement of getting back to the Word of God. To remove any kind of creeds and denominationalism and things like that that separated us. And to all come together under the banner of Christ, holding up the Word of God as the final authority for things. That's what that's all about. It was an exciting movement, but it's part of our story. Some of you have no idea how we ended up on this land that we're on today. What a great gift that God had given us. We want you to know how that all came to be. So that is part of this sermon series. That we indeed talk about the story of Christ Church, but in particular, the work God has done in and through the people of God to get us here today. We want to pass on the story of Christ Church Universal. As I said before, it starts in the book of Acts. So we're going to do a study over the next week, over the next weeks, 8 weeks to be exact. over selected passages in the book of Acts. We're going to look at the church history beginning with Pentecost. That is the true beginning of Christ Church Universal, where the church began. And we're actually going to have a pretty unique sermon series, and I'll just share a little bit of that with you. We have today where we have the theme being established. Then next week we'll talk about the church's mission. We'll talk about the church's mission. We'll take a look at Acts chapter 1. And then on the 16th, we'll talk about the establishment of Jesus Church and this local church. We'll talk about both of those. And then on February 23rd, we will be blessed by having Pastor Bill preach for us. And in this sermon series, you're going to see that I will not be doing all the preaching. That we have Pastor Bill's going to be doing a couple sermons, and also Pastor Sean will be doing a sermon in this series. He will be talking about the establishment of Jesus Church and his restoration movement. You'll get to hear more about that restoration movement as he shares that with us. Then on Sunday, March 1st, we will be looking at the ministry of the church, and we'll talk about the ingredients of a healthy church on that Sunday. And then Sunday, March 8th, Sean will be preaching for us, and he'll be in Acts chapter 9 talking about the conversion of Saul. And remember how we're talking about passing it on, passing it on, passing it on. And what we're actually doing is looking at the church and how the church is doing that. We think of the church as the Acts of the Apostles, or we think of Acts as the Acts of the Apostles, but I would suggest to you that it is the Acts of the church inspired by the Holy Spirit of God, which includes the apostles. But it's the Acts of the church that continue on. And then on the 15th, Pastor Bill will be preaching for us again, on March 15th, and he will talk about the outreach of the church and the conversion of the Ethiopian eunuch. And then last, we will have again the outreach of the church, but we will talk about the conversion of the Philippian jailer. So we'll get to look with Sean at the conversion of Saul, then we'll look at the conversion of the Ethiopian eunuch, and then we will look at the conversion of the Philippian jailer, as we talk about the idea of passing on the story of Christ Church Universal. We're going to pass on the story of Christ Church in our community and actually around the world. We'll talk about that as well. Not everybody knows we've been to Peru a couple times. Not everybody knows we've been to the Dominican. We've been to the Dominican Republic. We've been on an Indian reservation. We have our Mission Bowling Green every year. How many in here have participated in Mission Bowling Green? Now that's a little larger number of hands that went up that time. But we've had those who have participated here in Bowling Green. We do that every year. Sometimes we don't realize what church has been involved in over the years. And so we want to share that with you because we want you to realize the history of the church. Because, see, there is a danger of not telling the story. It's a real danger. It's a danger that is explained in Scripture. If you look at Judges chapter 2, verses 7 through 12, let me set the context of this a little bit. You'll see that real danger. Joshua has had the people make a decision. They have to make a decision. Who are you going to serve? And Joshua makes a statement. He says, you do whatever's best for you. I'm paraphrasing this. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Boy, I love that statement. That is a powerful statement from him. And then we read in Judges chapter 2, verse 7 through 12. And the Israelites served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the leaders who outlived him, those who had seen all the great things the Lord had done. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. They buried him in the land that had been allocated. Now notice what happens here. After that generation, verse 10, died, Another generation grew up who did not acknowledge the Lord or remember the mighty things he had done for Israel. They didn't know the story. They hadn't lived it. They didn't know what God had done for them. And they didn't acknowledge it. And guess what happened? They did evil. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight and served the images of Baal. They abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of Egypt. They went after other gods, worshiping the gods of the people around them, and they angered the Lord. I want to tell you something, and I'm not going to get off on this tangent because I could, and I could spend the rest of my sermon time on this. Part of the great problem we have in the United States of America is we forgot the story that made us who we are today. It's not being emphasized with our youngsters anymore. They don't know what this nation was founded upon. The men and women who loved God and died for this nation. And what she is all about and how she has been a light around this world. Our history is being destroyed and distorted. The story isn't being told, and we're reaping the harvest of it. Yeah, I could spend about 30 minutes on that and not exhaust it. Well, see, the elders and the pastors realize we will not be here forever. That's just the truth. So we have to prepare for when we're not here. One of the ways we're going to do that is we're going to put a book together. And in that book, we're going to share the history of Christ Church. We're inviting others from the congregation to join along with us who have been with us for a while. It goes all the way back to the formation of this church, and we're going to put some things down for people so that they will have them long after we're gone, that they'll have them. Well, let's prepare a little bit for this study. First of all, we need to know a little bit about the history of 2 Timothy. This is probably the last letter the Apostle Paul wrote. In truth, I don't believe Timothy ever made it to him. Paul asked for Timothy to show up and to bring him some things, and I don't think Timothy ever made it before he was killed. He is an old man now. He's in prison once again in Rome. Paul has been deserted by many of his friends, and he's likely facing the prospect of death right now. He's having to wrestle with his mortality. Before, he was imprisoned in a house, and he had some freedoms. But now he's in a dungeon, and it looks like it's not going well for him. I think he believes wholeheartedly Nero will have him killed, and he does. And so he's feeling this strong importance of passing on this ministry to Timothy, so that Timothy will be able to cover for him and do the things that he needs him to do. He writes in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 6 through 8, Paul does. He says, "As for me, my life has already been poured out as an offering to God. The time of my death is near," he says. "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have remained faithful." Can you hear this in the words of Paul? The passion as he breaks forth these truths to Timothy. He says, "And now the prize awaits me, the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on the day of his return. And the prize is not just for me, but for all who eagerly look forward to his appearing." That's us. That prize is there. Paul has established this theme of passing on the story early in his letter. You might remember verse 3 of this letter says, "Timothy, I thank God for you, the God I serve with a clear conscience, just as my ancestors did," said Paul. So who did he get this from? Who passed it on to him? His ancestors did. He says a little bit later in verse 5, "I remember your genuine faith, for you share the faith that filled your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. And he says, I am sure that that faith is in you as well. Who did Timothy get it from? His mother, his grandmother. They passed it on to him. I'm a lot like Timothy in that respect. He says in verse 13, hold on to the pattern of wholesome teaching you learned from me. So who else did he get it from? It was passed on to him from Paul. Are you getting that picture? Pass it on. Pass it on. Pass it on. Here's our main idea today. To pass on the story of Christ Jesus, I must first be strong in the grace of Christ, like a suffering soldier, an honest athlete, and a hard-working farmer. And then I must teach these truths to trustworthy people who will pass it on to others as well. Be strong through the grace that God gives you in Christ Jesus. Verse 1 says, Timothy, my dear son, be strong through the grace that God gives you in Christ Jesus. You've heard me teach these things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses, he says. Now pass them on. See, God's grace is unmerited favoritism. We don't deserve it. We don't earn it. It's a gracious gift from God. And it's a gift that we've been given so that we might give it to others. Are you becoming more gracious as you grow in Christ? See, that would be the hope, wouldn't it? See, but it's the same grace that saves us that also sustains us. See, we must find our strength in grace, not in my ability. If you will, man, I need to trust myself more. No, you don't. You need to trust Christ more. You need to understand what you'll do in your flesh and realize that, and then embrace Christ in faith and trust the grace that he gives you. Remember, Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 through 10, he says, even though I have received such wonderful revelations from God, so to keep me from becoming proud, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me and keep me from becoming proud. 3 different times he says, I begged the Lord to take it away. Each time he said, my grace is all you need. My grace is sufficient. My power works best in weakness. So now I'm glad to boast about my weakness, he says, so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weakness and in insults and hardships and persecutions and trouble. Why? That I suffer for Christ in all these things, for when I am weak, then I am strong. God's grace saves us, but God's grace also sustains us in life. We must be the people who first received God's grace and lived by grace and then pass that grace on to others. Your story, my story as a Christian begins and ends with grace. It is filled with grace throughout. It takes the grace of God working in and through God's people to keep the story going. If you do not have the grace of God, you will not be able to give that story to others. The secret to passing the story is that you have lived it and proven it by your life. And I want to give illustration after illustration after illustration. We just don't have time for it. But you don't go to people who have failed at things to get information on how to succeed at those things. People need to see proven in the lives of others that grace works by the way you live your life. That's the secret to passing the story on. You understand what you need to do, and you know how to do it. You've made it work in your life, but you also remain humble about it. One of the great blessings we have at Christ Church is this. This church has always been a grace-orientated church. When we err, we try to err toward the side of grace. We will give people grace. You know why? Because we want them to extend grace back to us. That's what Jesus said, wasn't it? That's how you have unity among people. That's how it works, if you're gracious. He said to endure suffering like a good soldier. Do not get involved in the affairs of this civilian life, he said. See, life is a battle for the Christian. We are at war. We battle with our own fleshly desires, and we battle against an evil enemy by the name of Satan, who is our adversary, and he is the adversary of the Lord. Sometimes we can be naive and think, I'm really not at war. You can think that, but that's just not true. You really are at war. And the devil plays for keeps. And I want you to know something. He's not satisfied till he absolutely destroys you. He will destroy you, he will destroy your family, and he won't quit. Because that's who he is, it's what he does. If we are to win this war, we must rely upon the grace of God to sustain us through every battle we participate in. We must remember this war is being fought on foreign soil. This world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. That's the way the song goes, right? My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. This is not my home. This is not my permanent residency. We live as if we're going to live here forever. And it's not the truth. We're in a foreign country fighting right now, the battle. And the battle rages all around us. And so we're not supposed to get caught up in the affairs of the civilians around us. Many a Christian has lost the battle because they've become entangled in the activities of this life, to the point that they can no longer please their commanding officer. What are some of those activities? Well, see, the first thing we think of is it must be sinful stuff. Out drinking, carousing, and, we want to go down that list. But I want to tell you, there are a lot of good things that Christians are involved in today that have absolutely dominated their lives. They're caught up in the civilian affairs. And because of that, the Lord has been squeezed out. I would suggest to you that one of the great problems we have today is that we're so busy in the activities of the Lord that we have no time for Jesus. We're not even thinking about the Lord, let alone making him number one. And a big part of the reason we're involved in the activities of the world is because we really don't want to suffer with Christ. That's what this passage says. Endure suffering along with me as a good soldier. And when we get caught up in the things of Christ, we suffer for it. At least we believe we suffer. And the things of the world look much better to us. They look more enticing. It looks more advantageous. But we're to compete as an athlete, though, as well, aren't we? Compete as an athlete who strives for the prize by honesty and integrity, following the rules. He says an athletes cannot win the prize unless they follow the rules. Like an athlete, there is competition, isn't there? And the competition is for the souls of people right now. Are we as a church competing for those souls? Or are we busy? See, if we're to win those souls to the Lord, we must be honest and grace-filled people of integrity. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. Honesty and integrity matter. If we're going to win in this life and pass on the story to others, we must live a life that brings glory and honor to God by the way we live. If we're caught up in things that are ungodly, there's no way we're going to win people to Christ. It doesn't work that way. Nobody likes a drunk preacher. For those of you who used to hang out and drink, were you ever around someone who'd get drunk and start preaching? You're like, are you kidding me? Dude, you're drunk. Shut up. Right? Don't give me that business. I don't want that. Your life makes no sense. They live like the devil but want to tell people about the good news of God. Doesn't work that way. Work hard like a farmer who looks forward to enjoying the fruits of his labor. And the hard-working farmer should be the first to enjoy the fruit of their labor. Think about what I am saying. He says the Lord will help you get understanding of all these things. Being a Christian is hard work. Let no one deceive you about that fact. The Apostle Paul uses these metaphors for a reason. The suffering soldier, the honest athlete, the hard-working farmer. These are pictures that Paul uses, but they're not hard to understand. They're just very difficult to live. That's the problem with it. If we want to pass the story on to the next generation, it will take hard work to do that. But it will also be a work that we can look forward to the fruit from our labor. I want to tell you, I have no greater joy than seeing those who have given their lives to the Lord live for Jesus and watching the transformation in their lives. Isn't that powerful? And I love to watch people give their lives to the Lord. I mean, we stand and we clap and we celebrate. But we celebrate those victorious lives that are living for Jesus. See, often here, the hardworking farmer must be content to first do the work and then wait for the results. That's what farmers have to do. You plant the seed, then you wait. More than any other workman, he has to learn that there are many things that are out of his control, aren't they? He wants to see quick results, but quick results don't always happen. When you're working with people, it takes time. So then the Christian too must also learn to do the work of ministry and then wait for God to give the increase. Another aspect of the hardworking farmer is that he must prepare to do the work at any hour. That's the strange thing about ministry, isn't it? You never know when the harvest will come. And so you have to be prepared to harvest at any time the Lord gives you opportunity. William Barclay writes, one thing remains in all three pictures. The soldier is upheld by the thought of the final victory. The athlete is upheld by the vision of the crown. The hardworking farmer is upheld by the hope of the harvest. Each submits to the discipline and toil for the sake of the glory which shall be. It is so with the Christian. The Christian struggle, but it's not without a goal. It's always going somewhere. The Christian can be certain that after the effort of the Christian life, there comes the joy of heaven. The greater the struggle, the greater the joy. Now I want to give you some action steps as we leave today quickly. Number one, here's some things you need to do. Be intentional in living a life of grace. Be intentional in living a life of grace. Just as you trusted God to save you, trust His grace to sustain you in every circumstance of life. God's grace is enough. When I am weak, says Paul, then I am strong. The Christian life begins with grace, ends with grace, and is filled with grace. And the greater the struggle, the more grace God gives to sustain you in that struggle. If we're ever going to pass this story on to others, it will only be if we are filled with grace. Number two, be proactive in sharing your life with grace. Always be proactive, sharing your faith first with your family, and especially if your parents, with your children. I know you think there's a lot of things that's important in this life. Don't miss this one. This is the big one. You need to let them know that number one priority in your life is Jesus. More than anything else. More than how much money they'll make, more than their education, more than anything else. This is the number one priority. Be proactive in sharing, but always be proactive in sharing the grace of God that has made you who you are. And last, be selective. Find someone who you believe is trustworthy He said, now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on. Also be selective. Find someone you believe that is trustworthy and pass on your faith in Jesus Christ and the grace you have in God to that person so that they can pass it on to others. Tyler, come on. We want to go around looking for people who are faithful, available, and teachable. See, Paul ends this all by saying, think about what I'm saying. The Lord will help you understand all these things. It's time. The time is now to pass it on. His story is our story. Will you share that story with us? Please stand. This morning, we always offer an invitation. Why? Because when we gather together, we want to give you an opportunity to give your life to Jesus and to make your life right with Jesus. Always when we gather together. This morning's no exception to the rule. If you come here this morning with your heart hurting, wanting to give it to the Lord, I want to encourage you today. Won't you come while we stand and we sing together? Tyler, won't you take us?
We will be starting in 3 minutes. Everybody's quiet. You've got one, so. We're going to go ahead and get started. Would you pray with me, please? Father God, we want to thank you today for your gracious love. Father, we just ask that you would use us in some fashion to be able to communicate to others your love, your grace, and especially what your Son has done for us. And it's in his name that we pray. All right, last week we passed out a thing that I said was kind of a abbreviated, or not abbreviated, it's all right there. We looked at 3 aspects of it, and we want to try to look at a couple more of them today. How many were here for the service Sunday morning, just a minute ago? Real good. It was a real good situation, starting out on a new topic. Pass it on. And oh, crying out loud, every time I hear that, it brings back memories of camp. That was one of our favorite songs. And I'm old enough to know when, and it was out then, it was a popular song. The idea of passing things along, and those of you who are going to be for the second service, you need to understand that one of the very first topics or scriptures that we used is the text of the sermon, and that's from 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy, the second chapter, and basically verse 2, where it says, the things that you've heard from other faithful witnesses and from me, and this is a paraphrase, pass it on to trustworthy people. And as we're thinking about doing this, and as I was sitting here listening, and Doug happened to mention about, people who, for instance, he talked about Timothy, and Timothy's mother, his grandmother, were the ones that installed or helped develop faith with him. I got thinking about growing up as a kid, and my parents and my wife's parents were involved in starting a new church. In fact, we met for about a year and a half in my in-laws' house. I wasn't my in-laws at that point in time. My wife was 10, I was 12 when we did this. We grew up like brothers and sisters. And man, she was in a neighborhood of all boys. She was a tomboy. And if you tell her I said this, I'm going to get killed. But we literally fought like boys, brothers and sisters. I can't tell you how many times I come home with bloody shins. She was wicked with her feet. She'd kick me in the shins and so forth and so on. And of course my mom said, you cannot hurt a girl. So I'm, in essence, a target. But we had some people in our church and so forth. Actually, the gentleman who did the preaching was an elder in the church in Plymouth, Plymouth, Indiana. He drove 40 miles every Sunday to come up and to do that. And he was also the camp manager of our Christian camp. You know, Uncle Jim Johnston was one of the ones that just absolutely instilled in us young children. And I was the oldest kid of the group that started. And just instilled that particular thing. And then as we grew, and believe it or not, the last Sunday, we purchased a piece of property, built a parsonage, but left the interior partitions out of it so that we could do that. We got old theater seats, and the women made all of the cushions for them, and so forth and so on. And it wasn't long after we were in that building, we hired our first minister. And the gentleman's name was Paul Bowden. And he was a universal preacher. He was the administrative minister, the preaching minister, and the youth minister, all rolled up into one. And the things that Paul taught us was phenomenal. And it was that concept and what we've been talking about helping someone else understand the Word of God and leading them to the Lord. I could go on, preacher after preacher that was there, until I went off to college. And then I went to Bible college, and I had some of the most intelligent people in the world that were right there. And it was a small college. There was only 70 people in the college. And so you knew the professors by their first name, so forth and so on. And they took an interest in you, and they developed. And that's what the whole thing that we've been talking about reaching people. Now, everybody got one of these? All right. Thank you. This is a situation where you can go into the home, and this is, as we have been mentioning, nothing more than a tool. And I want to kind of review a little bit of last week, and let's start at the beginning. We looked at the Word of God, why that's important. We looked at the love of God and why that's important. And then we look at the situation of sin. And at the bottom of the page on it's not numbered, but it says, what are the consequences of sin? This is one of the things that we need to understand. What are the consequences of sin? Sin separates us from God. Think of Adam and Eve. They had one rule. They broke it. And God could not live with a sinful person. So he kicked them out of the garden. Literally. No, he didn't. He used a Jeep, because it said he drove Adam and Eve out of the garden. Bad joke. The difficulty with sin is it enslaves us. And we know that all sin falls short of the glory of God, and the wages of sin is death. All right? With that in mind, if you turn 2 pages in the book, or a booklet, we look at the cross. If Nobody can make it. Right? And you're dealing with hopefully a friend or someone like that. If no one can make it, then we're all doomed. But God, remember, God is love. He had a plan. And that plan, if you go through the Bible, was all the way through the Bible. It goes clear back to Genesis 3:15. The seed of woman will damage the head or step on the head of the serpent. The serpent will bruise that seed or that child, will bruise his heel. All right? The bruising of the heel of the Son of God was on the cross. There are several things that are listed here that you need to talk about with people. All right? Why did Jesus go to the cross? In the garden, didn't he pray, if this cup can be removed, in essence, I don't want to go, but your will be done. I will obey and we will go. The physical pain. I have a book, and I used to have it on my shelf. I had 3 bookcases full of books, along with about 20 others that are up in storage, and I decided it was just too much. We needed to move our furniture around, so I took the bookcases down, and I boxed them up, and this book is up in there, and it was a book that I got from a book club one time and whatever, and it was written by a physical doctor who explained the suffering and the crucifixion from a medical standpoint. You know, when the Roman soldier took the spear to make sure that Jesus was dead, and he shoved it up probably under the rib cage, and out came water and blood. Have you ever wondered what that is? Why that is? There is a sac around the heart. I'm going to have trouble pronouncing it. It's pericardium sac. There's a nurse back there, right? That particular sac is, and this is from the doctor's standpoint, that particular sac is filled with liquid. And it's a clear liquid. And what it does is it's like a shock absorber to the heart. Somebody comes up and really hits you hard right here. For instance, CPR. What's one of the first things they do? Go like that. Okay, it's that shock to get things moving around. It's a shock absorber. And the more stress, the more anxiety, physical pain will have a tendency, the heart in anyone will have a tendency to get more and more and more of the fluid. So when the soldier's spear pierced and went into the heart, you've got this clear liquid coming out along with blood. And everybody, and I didn't know that, and like I say, but the physical pain that Jesus went through, he was beaten by a Roman soldier. I had the opportunity to, along with my oldest son, who, I don't know if he was in high school or his first year in college, we went up to a junior high week, and they did Stations of the Cross for a real neat thing and everything. There's one of them that they hang a sheet, and all you see is a silhouette, and you see the guy with the hammer, and he's hitting something like this, and you hear, real things. Well, I was the Roman soldier that beat Jesus, and it was my son. Now, a little of the background to that was I went out and I bought a piece of leather, thick. I put carpet pad, glued it on the inside, and I wrapped it around Andy, and we tied it up. And when they would come into this little place, the particular camp had, the men's dorm had this beautiful fireplace. So we had a fire going in it, and that's the only light. And they bring the kids in. And I made a cat of nine tails, which was what they generally whipped the people with. And Andy was kind of like this, like he was tied up to the thing. And I leaned back and I went like this, and I drove him to his knees with the first thing, literally. He didn't get hurt, but the force drove him down to his knees, and then I continued to do it. And of course, for effect, I wetted the cat of nine tails, so every time it hit what it looked like, I went like this, and it looked like his back in the dark and everything, and every time you could see the lashes on it. And now we did this beautiful thing, but all of the time I'm doing this, I'm thinking, my Lord did this for me. He was able to do it, and I didn't make it like they did. They put pieces of glass and pieces of metal and tied them in. So every time that went down, it stuck in, and then they rip it. This doctor said his back was probably like hamburger. And then they forced him to carry the cross from wherever he had the trial outside the city and so forth. And a cross, if you've done anything, build a deck or anything of that nature, you take a 4x4 or a 6x6 and something that's pretty long, and even if it has the cross piece on it, or maybe it was just a cross piece, can you imagine setting that on a raw back that's been lacerated and to do this and so forth? Now, I'm saying all of this and trying to give you a picture of what it was like, and this is what God did for us. The cross is important. There was physical pain. There was emotional pain. You don't get whipped like that without, I don't want to say panicking, but emotional. Jesus understood that he was going to die. And I don't know of anybody that comes under some kind of a circumstance like that there isn't emotions involved. When Nan had a heart attack back over there 7 years ago, my emotions went bananas. I don't know what hers were doing. I probably more than bananas, a whole fruit salad. I don't know. But the emotions that you have, and he volunteered to do this. The spiritual pain, and on your little thing, he did what God wanted him to do. On the cross, it gives a reference to Isaiah 59, 1 and 2, and it says, when our sin blocks the face of God from us, not that God walked away from us, but we can't see God because of our sin. And sometimes our sin prevents us from getting through to God even with our prayers. Now that's a fancy paraphrase of those two verses, but essentially that's what it is that God cannot stand sin. 2 Corinthians 5, I think it's verse 21, again a paraphrase. Jesus became sin so that we might be righteous in God's sight. As you're talking to people, and you're talking about the response that we have to Jesus' sacrifice. Why would he do this for us? all right? Personalize it. We've already gone through a study of sin with people, and there isn't any one of us, and there's 4 or 5 places in the scripture that you can look, and there's listings of sin. And we say, well, I'm not a murderer, I don't steal, I haven't committed adultery, But then you go down a little bit, and it's, don't envy, don't have strife, don't, things along the things that are totally within our mind, but yet God calls them sin. If you have a person who is that, and we've all been there, we all can relate to this, and then all of a sudden, here's a picture of somebody dying for us so that God can be able to look at us and to accept us. All right, let's go on. Discipleship. And we've talked about this before. We've talked about it actually from the very beginning with Matthew 28, 19 and 20. About as you're going, or go ye, however you want to, the King James just slipped out, sorry about that. Actually, the these, thous, and all of that are perfect translations of the Greek in the standpoint of what pronoun is used, is plural, all those kind of stuff. But it just sounds kind of funny because we don't speak King James English. We don't speak English to begin with, but never mind. To be a disciple, you're a follower of Jesus, is what a disciple means. A disciple must make Jesus Lord. Strange word. If you went back 400 years, even back further than that, and you get into the feudal system, there were kings, queens, princesses, dukes, earls, all of this kind of stuff, and they all had this little hierarchy, and the king, didn't matter who you were, if he didn't like you, off with your head. What is it, Alice? The Queen of Hearts, off with their heads, and it was okay. They had the authority. Now think about the fact that Jesus is Lord. We in America do not have a concept of a hierarchy or a king or anything along this line. I mean, crying out loud, and I don't want to go political here, but every 4 years we can change the leader of our country. Doesn't make any difference. We can change it. It can only be there for 8 years, so there's no, at the best, that's all they can be. We change it all of the time, but think about Queen Elizabeth, who is in her late 90s. I remember watching her coronation on television. I'm old. But I can remember that. And she's been the monarch. And seriously, I don't understand the people in England. I do not. They have a parliament, a prime minister, all of this kind of stuff. But man, you don't want to say anything about the Queen. She is up there. And that's the aspect that we need to put into our lives about Jesus. He's Lord. And that's what a disciple is. There are 3 things, if you look at point number 2, of what a disciple is. Number 1, submissive. In the garden, Jesus said, "Not my will, but yours be done." I don't want to die. It's going to hurt. Okay? For the most part, none of us, even though we have a hope of eternal life and whatever it is that death situation. But he was submissive to it. Conviction. What happens when a person becomes a disciple? They're convicted about what their life is. And we need to share that. In other words, you just don't go do this, and this, which we'll get to in a further lesson. You don't do this, and this without being convicted to do something. You don't follow a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit without being convicted. If I go 57, I could get a ticket. Or if I go 70, or in the case of Portage, the speed limit is 35 and the trucks drive 60. And when I live right on 25, so, boom, I've been out there taking the garbage can out, in the morning, and actually almost been blown away with the air coming down through. But when you become a disciple, you are convicted that I want to do this, all right? And you don't do it for no reason. There is a purpose behind it, all right? And the last thing, if there is a purpose, then the last thing is commitment. And oh, how we sit and kind of sit back and go, hey, Sunday morning, this time to this time, I've committed to be here. Maybe. If something else doesn't get in the way. But what do you do with the other 165 hours in a week? Are you committed all the way? And these are some of the things that you need to talk about. There is a sheet that I passed out weeks ago on the idea, and now that I say it, I want counting the cost. Counting the cost. What is it going to cost you? Anything we do in life has a cost to it. And so as you're talking with people about becoming a disciple of Jesus, what is it going to cost you? I gave you the illustration of Ron and Gina, who Gina's family were Jehovah's Witnesses. I said, you become a Christian and your family's not going to talk to you. And they didn't. They excommunicated them. They wouldn't have anything to do. And Gina and her mother were like this. Not this Gina. Were like this. And I said, Gina, what are you going to do when that? You've got to make a choice. You've got to make a choice between the Lord and your mother. Which one's more important? Commitment. All right, we're going to go on. We're going to. I'm not going to be able to get through that. Huh? I'm going to run out of time, and I don't want to run out of time on that one. We will discuss that one. What do you think about situations? How many of you have had the opportunity to talk to someone else about the Lord? A couple of hands being raised. I won't do this. I was going to say, well, what's wrong with the rest of you? No. But that's not polite. It's true, but it's not polite. We don't want. Sharing your faith with someone else is probably the most difficult thing that a person can do from a standpoint of reaching out. I think I told you the example of and I don't believe in this kind of thing. I think it works to a certain, but only probably about 2%. You get results, and that's going from neighborhood to neighborhood, knocking on the door. My father-in-law was very, very honest about it. He'd go up and he'd knock on the door. I hope they're not home. I hope they're not home. I hope they're not home. But that was in his younger years. But I watched him do that. My mom and dad. My dad did not become a Christian until he was 50 years old. They were actually taking me to a class and then going over it, and I was sick for the first one, and it was on what do you need to do to become a Christian class, and it was done by the preacher. And there were, I don't know, maybe 15, 20, 25 people in the class. And I missed the first one, and I was upset about it because I was sick. So my dad called the preacher and said, he's really upset about this, that he missed it. And he said, well, bring him over to the house. I'll go over it with him, one-on-one. And then my dad got interested in what the preacher was saying. And actually had this happen, that particular preacher, years after, was talking about it. He said, I have only ever had one person seek me out to find out what it means to be a Christian and how do I do it. Come to my house to seek it out. He said, always it was the go situation. And didn't realize it, but our family was in the thing, and he mentioned my dad's name. And my dad, oh, wow, I want to hide. Of course, he could do it real well because his nickname was Shorty, so he could just kind of slouch down in the pew, But those are the things that as I'm looking at this, are the things that add to the importance of doing this. There are several of you that haven't been in the service, but the early service when Doug was preaching and he was talking about, your children. Are you, in essence, and these are not the words that Doug used, but do you evangelize your children? Do you evangelize your children? And so forth. I can remember my oldest son having doctrinal things come out of his mouth before he was a Christian that he understood, that amazed me that an 8-9-year-old could do. He had the comprehension, but he didn't become a Christian until he was 15. He owned his own salvation. So many times, and I think I've used this illustration, but it goes well beyond. I've had people call me, said, my son wants to be baptized or my daughter wants to be baptized, but I'm not sure how to talk with them. Can you come and help? And I look at it, and you start talking with them, and they've got somewhat of a idea. And my question to a young child, and this varies with children, their age, this is the question that I ask them. If mom and dad said no, wait a while, will you? And if they say, well, yeah, I guess so, they're not ready. When I wanted to be baptized, there wasn't anything that was going to stop me. And I was 17. Wasn't anything that was going to stop me. Now, I had been raised in the church. I had been immersed, but I didn't own my own salvation. That's one of those fuzzy areas with your children. But your children are the best place to practice. Really. And besides that, you've got an audience that can't get away. Captive audience. But it is so important that we do this whole situation of the sermon topic that we're using for passing it on. It is so important. Someone has said that it only takes one generation to stop Christianity. And there are some things that are happening right now that I am fearful. And I say that as being a 75-year-old guy who has been a Christian since he's been 17, had a whole lot of information and whatever given to me from the time I was probably 9. And some of the things that are happening in the world right now. Dangerous. And the only thing that is going to stop that is us. Because of the fact that what we have, we need to share. We're out of time. Thank you very much. That wasn't good. Yes, I am. I told you. Listen,
You might be 70, maybe.
you know it. I'm